All right, let me welcome you formally to the Decision 2023 studio on TVC. I am Mike Okwoche, and in the next couple of hours, we'll be together talking about the fallouts of the election, presidential election, and some of the senatorial elections. So far, there has been a lot of upsets here and there in the results as the outcome were being announced by INEC. Of course, we'll be looking at some of the factors, what really led to what, and so on. Joining me is Razak Olukoba. He's a public affairs analyst. He will help us make sense of some of the issues. Razak, good morning.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
It's good to have you
thank you, good
this
morning.
Now, you saw some of the results that were coming in some of the states. Lagos, on one hand, Nasarawa, on the other hand, Plateau State, on the other hand, Kano State. I wonder, when you saw the results as announced by INEC, I wonder what came to your mind?
Well, I was a bit taken aback. I don't know the indices of Plateau and Nasarawa. Nasarawa is where the party...
National Chairman, APC, comes from.
While Lagos is where the presidential candidate of APC comes from. For Kano, you might not be shocked because of Kwankwasiya movement. Ganduje did very well in Kano, but particularly because the son of the soil is contesting. Even if they know that the vote may only be a Kano vote, at that point, people may not care. At least to show that he's one of us and we voted him. And when it's family, a family is a family. So and that's what accounts for the Kano. It's not as if APC didn't do well in Kano, or it's not as if Ganduje did not pull the right string. Then in Nasarawa too, I didn't know the factors that were responsible for the Nasarawa incident. I tried to look at it from all angles. Nasarawa is a place I have lived before. It's just like Kwara too. It's hard for you to exert external influence on Nasarawa, Akwanga. You know, those areas are predominantly an indigenous people, unlike Port Harcourt, Lagos, Kano, and so we will still keep watching and keep investigating. But the one that shocks one most is that of Lagos. And, you know, since 1999, the political institution in Lagos, the tendency that is in power today is getting stronger and stronger and stronger every day. What led to what we have witnessed is a thing that the party must have to work on. A lot of factors we learned came up. One of which is, of course, the currency issue, the Naira issue. Not because people didn't have money to bribe voters, but it created a lot of problems for logistics. I was an observer in Lagos, and I went around. There are areas that I see conscious mobilization by labor. Then there are areas that the numbers of people that were there were not, and those are predominantly APC stronghold. So, so the Naira issue may be one of the factors that is responsible for it. Then maybe assumption that this is our home now. How will you? Oh, no, this is so that kind of political overconfidence might be responsible for it, and that kind of arrogance and pomposity for us as a people in this country is what we must learn to tame. That once you are growing politically, everything you are doing that keeps you winning that contest must not be left behind. I know that in Lagos, apart from party, the party also engaged, that's what led to the creation of ICG. The party also engages all sectors, the students, the civil society who wants to work with them, the artisans, the professionals. It's all sort of meeting. It held this. I learned it held this time too, but why it didn't work out that way? Then the third forces are indigenous organizations like the Epelle movement, the Yoruba movement, the Laje movement. All those people, maybe because of currency, or maybe because of one thing or the other, I don't think they were properly mobilized. So that accounts for the loss in Lagos, and more to the fact that there were conscious mobilization by Lagos. So all those areas, the APC needs to address it, because it's someone for the victory that is going to emerge for either Atiku, Kwankwaso, Obi, or Ashwaju to have lost their base and win the general election. Victory is victory, but that symbolism that is missing is not good. And as for the coming election, you know, the danger of a new thing coming on board is part of the things that injures democracy. When in the name of let's just bring a new thing, in the rest of the world, they make that mistake too much. We've been having too much of Labour, and they go back to another political party, and Britain will suffer for it for another 4 years. The same thing in America. We have had enough of Democrats. Let us bring the Republican, and Trump came in. We have when Bush came on board. So just because people just like before he came on board that there must be variety. That sense of variety in people may want to also say that let us look for a change. But we have to be very cautious in looking for the change that we are talking about.
But looking at it from that window, especially when people who are, like in a state, for instance, in Lagos, where people who are residents, whether you are resident or you are indigent, it doesn't matter. You are in Lagos and you're supposed to vote here, and you want to be part of the system. Whether you have been part of the old system or you just want to be part of the system, shouldn't people have the right to whatever they want to change? Because at the end of the day, when the democracy we talk about is what the people want. And majority of the people, for that matter, if that is what they decide, shouldn't they be allowed to express themselves?
The decision of the people must be guided, and that's the role of.
So who guides? Who guides that?
Me, you, public affairs discussions like this are meant to guide the people. When people want to take wrong decision, you say, come and discuss these issues. And when people listen to you, listen to others, listen to our views.
You shape the public opinion.
It shapes the public and moderate it. And that's what we are doing here too. That if it were to be performance, APC will win. Because you will have lost count of what Sanwo-Olu has done. You will have lost count completely of his performance. But one shall not live by bread alone. That's politics. Elections must not be won. The vote that APC got came out of the performance of the party, the governor, the deputy, and all the team came out of the performance. Other votes that will have come from mobilization from party and other structure are the missing link. There were numerous reports, because as observer, you must listen to the strength that gets to Labour that gives them that victory. Why did PDP took a very far third? Then why did APC, that has been there for over 20 years, they perform this way? So you have it's our role, because you know very well that you become here to discuss issues like that. So we know very well that the error on the APC side is that area that we have pointed out, and the concentration on general election was overwhelming. That took the attention away from this. The opportunity to correct it is coming. What we will advise the people is to remain calm, express your anger by preparing for the next election. So in other states, you will see the pattern in other states. You will expect the results you are getting from all like Lagos. For instance, in Kwara now, where the Numelaye said that they reject the election in Kwara. If you are close to development in Kwara, you know that the results couldn't have been different from this. There's a man that has emerged in Kwara today who may likely be the next political leader in Kwara, the new Turaki of Ilorin, Sadi Mustafa. just like in Benue too. So it's a movement. Apart from what the governor may have gotten, the man is a movement, and it's going to influence
That's the
political pattern.
APC governorship candidate, Father Hyacinth Alia.
Yes. So the Turaki is just contesting for the Senate.
So it means the influences of these persons that a lot of people hold very dear could have rubbed off on how the outcome is, even though the governorship election hasn't come.
He did very well. And that's why there are political parties also who also employ so many different tactics, made their platform available for a lot of people that are hungry. Not essentially about manifesto, but about anger. Like if you are angry, we are also
You can ventilate it here.
You can ventilate it here. So that kind of thing also works for some parties. That this party has not done well. This party, but we are just newcomers, so we will do it differently. And because angers are always with people, either the government has paved the road with the gold or not, it doesn't matter. There are people who will still be hungry. I read something on social media yesterday, and I was taken aback. Someone who posted another of his performance, and someone wrote that you are a very shameless person. 35 states are not working. It's only your state that is working, and you are proud of it. And I was shocked. So you come up with what can make your party win. And that's what some parties have done. That what do people want to listen to? Mike is contesting against me. Mike is doing it. There are voters. What can I say about Mike that will naturally get people angry against Mike?
With him.
So, and that is what a particular party do, anger in the land, the anger of insecurity.
And with plenty of energy.
Yes.
They have a lot of it.
Energy. So they just did that. Exuberance of youth, if you don't invest it properly as a nation, they will keep using it the way they are using it. That's why in some countries in the world, even it's around football, some is around research. In China, they took the direction of their youth to initiatives. That's why you see their TikTok.
Social enterprise.
Yes, social enterprise. Like their TikTok is not expressing body. It's not by insulting people. You'll be shut down immediately. I don't know how they're able to do that for over 500 million youth in China. But immediately you do that, you're going to be shut. So they invest the exuberance in their youth properly. And that is also what we must also copy in Africa, that we are used to know African people as someone who invests the energy of our youth properly. We are used to youth in Africa bringing our parents to come and live with us, asking about. The strange thing at the moment is that the youth has been left to do things on their own. And if you leave the youth without mentorship to do things on their own, the result of what we are going to have today.
Yeah, but considering it from that window, I totally agree with you. But however, when we talk about youth being the leaders of tomorrow and youth being part of the process so that they can learn, at what point do we guide the society or guide the youth the way you're saying so that we can harness their energy towards the right use? And at what point do we allow them to actually be part of the system and change the course of things? Well, how do we balance that?
There must be willingness on both sides. The elder or the leadership must be willing, and the youth must also be willing. In our own country here, the reverse is the case. The leaders are a bit reluctant to do so. That's essentially that cut across all the nation. But majority of part of this country, the leaders are not willing to mentor the youth. And the youth, instead of insisting that it's a right for you to mentor us, they also draw conclusion that, they didn't even recognize the fact that they require mentorship. It's the leadership that will be telling them that what you are doing, first, this is what we lead you. Second, so on the third occasion, the young people will come and listen to you because the first time they didn't listen. You got a bad result. Second time, you got a bad result. Third time, they will come and take your advice. That, okay, what is your opinion about this elder? But the youth, the moment the leader refused to mentor them, they took the initiative away. And for, states like Lagos, the influx of this unmentored youth, came into Lagos and mixed up with the youth that has been mentored. Because in Lagos, a society that will survive must have institutions that is going to address so many issues: social ills, economic, indigent. There is that in abundance in Lagos. There are so many institutions in Lagos that it's until they stop doing that thing that you know that, oh, some people are responsible for keeping the flower.
Some persons have been holding,
for
the torch all the while.
So on the store, you see some media, what are they doing? When they tell you, there are certain signposts that we used to see 12, 15 years ago. It disappeared. There's an agency that's responsible for that. So Lagos has a whole lot of institutions. But because 35 states in the country see Lagos as the last call, they don't do well, they come to Lagos. So majority come without the required training that you are supposed to when you are coming to Lagos. You remember what they told you? When I was coming, they told me too. Many nobody tells them anything. Just go to Lagos. And
freestyle.
Yes, freestyle. And that is really the biggest burden of Lagos. You see people coming to Lagos. I used to ask people from Lagos that, is this out? They say, no, 20, 30 years ago, the youth are respectful, no violence. That you remember many songs that were sang by Barrister, all those Yoruba. Why did you think they sang that? It's because they noticed that there are ills that have crept into their society. Bosimilorum. Bosimilorum is a slang in those days that remove your chain and put it in my neck. That's the slang of the stiff that time. They'll come to you boldly. Where's your joy? Remove it. So when it started growing, someone sang a boss. So when it was addressed, they now sang Bosimilorum, that there's nothing such again in Lagos. So, and these are 30 years, 35 years ago. So it crept into Lagos. So Lagos was getting attacked from all fronts. It is made to look as if Lagos is responsible for the worst of their life. Well, that's all of us know the state we come from. All of us know where we come from. When instance happened, there is no state that has been as responsible for instance like Lagos. And that has nothing to do with Lagos. Lagos is not the one that employed the IG or police. The instance, the special task force, it's not Lagos. But the structure in Lagos ran into billions. And till tomorrow, they are still holding Lagos responsible, the killings in Lagos. So, and that is the genesis. That is where it came from. When people come, and when you have society that does not give this kind of mentorship and conscious orientation, that there are responsibility, such that the youth that come to Lagos will know that there are certain things that is not the responsibility of Lagos State. It's not our responsibility to look for a job for you. If you come to Lagos to fend for yourself, how can I be responsible? I have my population, I have my projection, and my population is going to grow from 10 to 15 million. Your incursion of extra 20 million that makes to Lagos 25 million is unexpected.
It has distorted the projection.
It has distorted the projection. So it's not, you can't hold me responsible. This thought must keep rolling in.
But if you see from that window, as much as some people may come into Lagos aimlessly, if I deduce from what you were saying, there's no plan, but let me just go to Lagos, maybe I will find something.
Yes.
But there's also the issue of coming to Lagos, and also being in Lagos helps them make contribution to the growth of Lagos, either by taxes or by skill or by trade or by anything. So at the end of the day, Lagos also still benefits.
That's the error.
So it's not only coming to Lagos to take, it's also the issue of bringing to Lagos.
That's the error. And the people in government are thinking in that way.
Okay.
They are taking a risk. And we will keep burning. And that's what has led us into this now. There must be a scientific movement. This must be precision and there must be accuracy. If population will grow, you can't bring 10 million people. And the day we've been calling the attention of the government to it is as far back as the 1994-95, when we took a census of the numbers of people that are coming into Lagos and the numbers of people that are going out. So we raised alarm that time that this is outrageous. If you are thinking about the money you are going to collect as a tax, put it side by side with the responsibility that they will demand from you. It's going to be a body in the future, and this is the point we have gotten to now. So, Lagos must see it as part of its responsibility to tax all the state around it.
I wonder how that is going to situate in the eyes of the law.
Down project. The Dawn project.
The Dawn.
We were the author of Dawn project. In fact, Lagos was supposed to be the biggest beneficiary of Dawn project. But I don't know whether people see it from that perspective. We'll start with Ashwaji, we'll start with all the lands in Lagos, which go to many national reasons, and say that the Dawn agenda is this. But for people, it takes this kind of explanation to understand what is Lagos going to give from all of this. So nobody stops anybody from coming to Lagos. But there must be a way you move. There must be a way the federal government must discourage two movements of people from one state to the other. Migration. Because I'm a chartered public administrator. I know this for sure that if you don't censor the way people move from rural to urban area, the future of that country is not guaranteed in terms of raw materials, in terms of the food they will eat, in terms of industrialization and all of that things. There's a danger for such a nation. And when you don't come together to pay attention to Lagos, the 50% of the economy of the nation, it's your role as my role, all of us. Forget whether the indigenous of Lagos or not. It's our role to make sure that we don't put too much burden on Lagos and to lead us to where we are today, where the train system is always overloading, where the road is also always overused, where houses are no longer and when you get to a point when Lagos will now say that all bungalows in the cities must go, they must be high-rising. Because the turn of the century, Lagos will become 100 million. So when that time comes, the way to go by it is to introduce a policy where there's going to be a new urban planning. When that time comes, if you don't start the kind of conversation now, people will resist it. Are you the owner of my house? And it's our duty as a people to make sure it happens. So part of the burden in Lagos and part of the things that is weighing into Lagos today are this kind of thing. And Lagos is not performing. And the same thing goes for Kano.
Oh, yes.
The same thing goes for Port Harcourt.
But I think Kano has an edge in the area of the landmass in comparative terms to Lagos. So as the population swells, there is still space to accommodate all of those.
No.
They may not be thinking
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
You see, there are areas that's not meant for habitation. Don't dare it, you will go hungry if you do that.
Okay, that's true.
Yes, any nation that doesn't think like that is in trouble. Nigeria is not big. You think we are big? We are not up to 1 million square kilometers.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you look at Russia, any country that encounters Russia militarily will suffer for it. The whole of population of Russia today, if you keep multiplying the exact population of 147 million, or 150 or 147 million, if you want to have that kind of population in 10 spots in Russia, it can accommodate them. They wake up tomorrow, all of them have 10 children, and they become 1.5 billion, 1.5 billion. Confidently can accommodate them. Put it side by side with China, which is just 3 million square kilometers. They are in trouble with China too. Another 20 years. And that's why the policy of one child came on board. That the way we are going, we will consume our food and consume the world's food. The way we are going. So Nigeria is not a big country. Nigeria is, we have to manage the land we have. So if you look at from point of view, we can just start keep building out. And that's why our concern with the coming election now is a good thing, that people brought out manifesto. How do you manage 250 million people? When we get serious, all the money we are making, if it's not going to private profit, it's not enough, Mike, to take care of our needs. And that is the concern of some of us. Look at the time I came here now. What give us sleepless nights? I have not had 4 hours of sleep in the last 1 week. We do Zoom training, we do physical training, we monitor election. After today now, I'm going for another project, this kind of discussion outside Lagos. And that's the body we have as people who want the nation to be better. So Kano, Port Harcourt, and all those places we think have advantage over Lagos. Lagos knew the danger they are in. So they are addressing it now that we know. So the states like Kano don't know until it is too late. A state must be able to cater for at least half of what it's going to eat. Lagos has fish. As other things that they can in terms of food consumption. So they have to work on that. Everything cannot be 100% interstate importation. It has to be, you have to work. So, and that's the area we have to be thinking. That's what the guys that is coming to become our president must be thinking about.
But on the other hand, a state like Lagos, as much as it encounters or it carries the burden of Nigeria and all of that, there's also the advantage it has where it naturally attracts some benefits too. For instance, international organizations that are coming in, Lagos is quicker and easier to attract funding, FDIs from other countries into Lagos. Now, you talked about agriculture, which I agree, but the point there is there are things that also come naturally to Lagos, even when Lagos doesn't call for them. You know, like yams, the way the yams come to, so far, some of the best yams come to Lagos naturally. Some of the best plantains come to Lagos naturally. So the point there is that we have to look for where we have comparative advantage. That we may not be able to farm everything we need by ourselves. There are some things that will come to us. There are some things that we can go give out, as the case may be. Like, you remember the lake rice, the collaboration between Lagos State and Kebbi State in rice production. So these things are natural. It comes to Lagos where other states and other enclaves will naturally want to do some kind of business with Lagos, where Lagos must not be the one doing it. You can collaborate. They have the resources, so you can collaborate with other states to do them while they bring the end product to you. So I believe those kind of metrics can also be advantageous
Mike,
to Lagos.
You're always saying that Lagos actually calls for it.
Okay.
And you won't see them calling for it. When we say that a city is a cosmopolitan city, and the definition of cosmopolitan city is that there are standards that they must meet. For instance, if anybody gets to Lagos, to a metropolitan city, there are things that should not be attached to such city again. One of which is Okada. One of these are certain shanties. So when those policies were rolled out, that they must disappear, it's not against the poor people. It's just what defines what Lagos is. And why I say Lagos calls for it is that when COVID-19 happens, the response of Lagos, what was responsible for the rest of the world to quickly come to the aid of Lagos were those standards that's established. That there are standards in Lagos. It is easy. There are networks for distribution. There are population for you to discuss with. And the knowledge of what is going on in the world seems to have, Lagos seems to have gotten it right. So what Lagos is doing is actually, in a way, calling for all those things, such that when things want to come to Africa, the three cities that they will think of is Cairo, Johannesburg, and Lagos. So they have called for it. And that is why we kept saying that the public education is important, particularly for the young people. You certain young people who say that, why are certain people, why is Dangote Sori a billionaire? This and that. Say, we practice a free economy. This is a capitalist nation. You can be as rich and they also can be as poor as anything. The country owes you no obligation if you are poor to do anything for you. If the country decides not to give free education, the government decide to toll your road, the country decide what the public will call for is moderation. The moment we have adopted a capitalist economy, the young people don't know this. That's why some of this public education, and it's reflecting in the way we conduct our elections. The reason why certain young people are voting for a particular party is a reason why they should not even vote for that party. But because they don't know. There are things that the young people say that at your age, at their age, when you were at that, when I was at that age, I already know. 90% of them don't know. And we got to know this because we read books, we listen to public knowledge. But these days, we don't see such thing. Look at the INEC office yesterday. The argument some people are pushing there. Some senators push certain argument, and I say, are these people that our youth will emulate? When you analyze the result, the people at home will say, of course, this election must go. But when you analyze on the basis of the fact that this election, just because the election is not acceptable to you, it's not acceptable. And you keep building that antecedent hiding on the tree and things like that, and now translate it to a point where you will now start doing such a thing in an election where election has been counted. So it's not. So this thing is important for our society, Mike.
Okay. We'll come back to talk about this, but let me bring in something else. And I'd like my producers to play this. Now, the CEO and founder of the Albino Foundation, Jake Epelle, waded into an incident that took place at the National Collation Center of INEC yesterday. And there was some kind of a little disruption here and there by some party agents who felt that the process wasn't going the way they expect and the way they expressed themselves. And Jake, in his own, because as an observer, he was trying to make clarification, saying that there is no law that says that any political party should stop the process the moment things don't go the way that you want it to go. If there are grievances from anything in the process of the election, there are laid down institutions to look at that, and there are procedures also. And so let's play that so that we can have a perspective to this as we talk about it.
There is no law, even in the Electoral Act, which I was part of the people that fought for, there is no law that says a political party can stop this process. That's the law. And so, but for the peace of this country, for the sake of the destiny and the soul of this country that is yearning out for peace, we need to allow this process to continue and be completed, and the aggrieved have a right to go to the court or the tribunal to seek redress, you know. And so what I did is needful and what any elder statesman should do. When two people are fighting, one person must be in the middle to make sure that peace will reign, you know. But like I said, I'm on the side of the law, you know. I'm not totally, absolutely happy about what has happened even before this process, you know, but we can't throw the baby with the bathwater. This process should continue and be completed. The entire world is watching us. We must behave ourselves so that at the end of the day, whoever is aggrieved can go and seek for redress. Let the best win. Let Nigerians be the one that will determine who will rule her and not any individual. Well, you know, that intervention came too little, too late. I was one of the first people that alerted INEC to go on and tell the nation what happened. And I think some of the issues and the challenges we're going through is traceable to that gap in communication. You know, I always say I'm one of the defenders of INEC because of the good work they have done in terms of, at least in terms of inclusivity. You know, for them to allow that opportunity to slip their finger, that's the result of what we're getting. But again, if the issues that we have recognized have happened, should it be the reason to totally discountenance the process? I don't think so. You know, there is no perfect democracy, you know, and you cannot, in the midst of this situation, begin to call for something that will inflame this country. We cannot afford to do that. Let the process be completed. Everyone have a right, even myself as an individual, as a critical stakeholder in the electoral process. I have my own say. I'm not totally, absolutely happy with what has happened, the lateness and some of the challenges when it comes to logistics. Those are issues that INEC must address, and I'm sure they will address it. And so this is a time for the nation to come together. Let's unite as one indivisible country that we are. We don't have any other country. People like us have turned down opportunities to live outside this country and be citizens. I turned down the American green card. I don't have any other country but Nigeria. And so we must stick together and fix the problem and move ahead. After this election, after this whole process, comes Nigeria, and we must always focus on that. This is not the time to carry placard. This is not the time to riot. This is the time to come together as one indivisible country with intention to fix the country and move ahead. I would say that the beavers, which I must tell you, I was part of the first trial, the second trial, the third trial. We interrogated it. It was going to be one of the best things that has happened to this country. But somehow, somewhere, I think the technology either failed them or someone failed the technology. Whatever happens, I think at the end of this process, there should be an absolute interrogation to ensure and to see what happened, and whoever is responsible for this should be brought to book. We came up with an innovation. I remember the British High Commissioner applauding it and saying to me that it's never happened even in UK. We came up with a dashboard that presented live interaction between our situation room, the first PWD situation room, and what was happening in the field. Unfortunately, I have very limited data information. The limited data information we have showed that about 73% compliance, but then the report we are getting from entire country is a far cry from that. I think, and I must say this, this is not new if the INEC chairman hears it. There's a disconnect between what he said and what he wants to do and what happens in the field, and we must fix it. That means someone in the field is either ignorant of what to do or outrightly sabotaging the process, and we must not allow this to happen. There's several reasons for that. Number one, because INEC did not go to the polling unit on time, there was a surge of electorate, and that surge, of course, undermined the participation of persons with disability because it created some form of insecurity. And once there is any form of insecurity, persons with disability will leave the environment. I will leave the environment, you know. And so I think that is chiefly the reason why we didn't see what I would call effective participation of persons with disability in this process. And that's a disservice because my projection was that we're going to have 60% inclusivity, you know, and that never happened. Trust me, that never happened. And we have data that proves it. We have issued our first pre-election statement, mid-election statement. I suspended the post-election statement because this process has to be completed for any reasonable post-election statement.
All right, that was CEO, founder of the Albino Foundation, Jake Epelle. He was saying that in response to Dino Melaye's protests at the National Collation Center when he was challenging the chairman of INEC on the uploading of results, you know, into the portal. And the way he went about it, they said they were not going to accept that, they were going to go to court and so on. The INEC chairman was saying, of course, the point there is, that's not to say everyone is saying everything is perfect, but the Voter Education Commissioner, Festus Okoye, had addressed the nation in a press briefing earlier to say, okay, we have a challenge with the portal. However, we're working to ensure that everything is put in place. So all of those, it was expected that party agents, election observers, and all those who are involved would show understanding to support INEC to work. Rather, it seemed like the way that the protest came, it seemed like he was accusing INEC of collusion with some persons, or some persons trying to be mischievous and so on. That was why J.K. Epelle was trying to respond to that, to say, well, we may not have a perfect system, but the issue there is we have a challenge which we should all work together to address and ensure that the system works. No one single political party can come and say we have to maybe get a court injunction to prevent INEC from going on with the process that it is officially empowered to carry out.
Well, you see, we have to be very careful the way we handle our institutions. And that's why all our institutions in Nigeria today get weakened by this type of thing. We must do everything to strengthen our institutions. When you have weak institutions, but public office holders become vulnerable. The leaders of that institution become very vulnerable. The same way you will see EFCC doing so well and ensuring that our stolen monies are brought back. But someone will tell you that when you want to go and recover the loot, why did you go in the night? When is the bad time to catch a thief? It's not in the night. Then they may even say that why must you carry gun to go and catch a thief? Do you go to a thief site with a toothpick? Someone has stolen. So, and this type of thing is not good for our country. That's why that public education is important and orientation. For me, the INEC chairman have been having success, from the last one to the one before and to I see them as complete gentlemen. And I see them as someone who cannot compromise. I was very happy. I was in the middle of another training for the coming election that this type of situation, how do you undo it? We're training youth. We want to define who is a patriot, who is a statesman, who should you emulate. So on the other side, we are watching what is happening in the TV and doing that. And we know that what effort of other people are doing, what we are doing, we yield results sometime, someday. So, and I saw the way those discussions were going. It's not good. INEC should set standard for the type of people that must come and represent them. I've represented the whole state in an election before. I can't behave like that. And that's why it is important.
But isn't that the burden of the political party who chose whomever they want to be their
That is what INEC should begin to work on. But political party is not a platform.
Yeah, but
political is one of the institutions we have to educate the young people, in fact, the populace. So when you have an academic institution of such nature, the people who must engage with you must appear like academics. So those are part of the area that we are working with INEC to also correct that. It's not a moral issue. That standard, this is a country. Because on the strength of that, there is no ideology that won't have its own followers. So the currency and the culture of violence today was emulated by the youth for some people. The language of say do or die affair. This election must be won. When you pick it, they will magnify it. And that's part of it that became NSAS. They took it from a particular leader in this country. This election is going to be war. They listen to you. And this happened when those boys were 15, 16. Listening to a particular president. And today, the president is writing another letter again. And I know very well that President Buhari will not enter that kind of trap. But when he had another election in this country, when he was far younger. And today, Babangida is over 70. He has spent over 30 years trying to correct those impressions. That I didn't do it alone. In fact, I don't even want to do it.
Yes.
Nobody listened to him again.
I was under pressure.
Nobody listened to him again. Either somebody, I did it by proxy, either somebody, and we don't want to know that. We all do responsible for that.
Yeah.
So the damage to the nation must be weighed very well by President Buhari. Don't, in fact, any letter from that type of statement, so-called statement, don't read it again until after the election. If they tell you about the letter, don't read it again, because, Mike, the 7th most populous country in the world, I kept reiterating this so that we will realize the peculiar nature of Nigeria.
Yeah.
43 million population of Ukraine has completely shattered the world of Europe, the humanitarian crisis. They are shutting their doors on the war, what is coming out of the war. Mm-hmm. They don't want to go in the humanitarian crisis to anybody again. They are battling with their own crisis. Now, this is 250 million people. So everything that will make it, those people that came from the rest of the world, we have to debrief them. And part of the reason why they came to Nigeria is not because they don't want to, they love the president of Nigeria or they like Nigeria so much. It's because they don't want you to come and use your own country and put your son in their own Garon sulfate, Gary. They don't want that.
What did you just say?
Garon sulfate. In their own Gary. So, conduct your country very well. So, and we, as a Nigerian too, we have to conduct ourselves very well too. The moment Nigeria no longer play a role in ECOMOG, Africa is in disarray. Mm-hmm. The whole of Africa is in disarray. Mm-hmm. And that's why we hold countries in the world that are selling armament responsible for part of our insecurity in Nigeria. Because we're not happy. ECOMOG is in Liberia, ECOMOG is everywhere, Nigeria, ECOMOG is everywhere, led by Nigerian army. Mm-hmm. And we are keeping peace. Armament sellers all over the world are unhappy with Nigeria about that. So those are things that you have to look at. If you want to use letter from an ex-president to come and sell gun to us in Nigeria, we will not take it. It's a bait that the president must not take. The result is being read, and we are going to accept it. In good faith, Lagos people have accepted the result that is coming out gradually. So why will it be difficult for people to accept the result? More so, and actually I kept saying that this is a sheet signed by your party agent. That's a superior argument.
Yeah.
That should keep any politician short.
Exactly.
Or are you saying that the party agent you send to those places
is no longer
trustworthy? Is it INEC that employ you for you? Is it Labour? Is it NMPP that employ you? Or is it APC that employ you? He's your member, employed by you. He's been your party member for years. Someone you trust.
And you trust him. Or her.
So those documents, and that's the essence of what it is called the uploading that they are saying. On your own, you can collect results. And that's why I have a suspicion that they have done their own collation before I did their own collation. They know where the direction is going. And that's why they are doing what they are doing. So
because the point there is, objectively, in fact, if we in the studio, the both of us are here, and we sign a document, you have a copy of the same document, I have a copy of the same document.
The third party is now reading it.
And the third party is reading it. And even if there's a discrepancy, you and I can say, no, that is not what you and I have.
You have not done that.
And whatever the thing is, there is the appropriate time and place to even channel that kind of...
You are not saying because...
The moment you have the evidence...
You are not saying because that copy with you. Because I didn't send it to you to your WhatsApp, which is an upload. Like in a group WhatsApp. Yes. The upload is like a group WhatsApp. You are not saying because I didn't send that document to you to that group WhatsApp. Yes. You are not saying it's no longer valid.
It invalidates...
And the person that you gave, you and I submit the document, you're not saying that, this document, I'm not the author. You are the author. So that makes it a comic. That turns the whole thing into a comedy. So working out in a way does not remove the integrity of the election. And that is why Nigerians must brace up. The more you strengthen democracy, the more you strengthen your economy, the more you strengthen your security, the more the rest of the world will be willing and ready to do business with you. The moment, because for people who want to do business with you, there are countries in the world that are having economic projection about the president. They have profiled Tinubu, they have profiled Obi, they have profiled Atiku. And there are countries in the world that are coming with series of business proposals. The moment your democracy is becoming on LD, they will run away from it.
Of course, they do.
And that's kind of thing we must begin to tell our youth that don't rupture this thing that is going on. Don't rupture it. The sacrifice we did for democracy, of course, we can be reading that in history. We have taken it as part of our life we are going to live. I watched someone say that we're in the trenches. And then, so, okay, fine, all of us paid price for that. We don't wish that thing to come back. So that we don't look as if we are harassing other people who don't take part with it. Of course, it's a factor. If I close my right eyes, I can't see with my left eyes. That's not the price I pay. My teeth, so all these things are prices that we have already, but we can't keep using it to harass people. And there are a problem when we keep talking about it. But let's talk about the gains of democracy. It brings good things to us, and it's going to bring more things. When Jonathan was leaving, our halls were no longer for sale. They were not buying it again. There was skepticism that will Nigerians survive it. I am aware of families who were relocating to Cotonou already. I am aware of people who were planning to move to Niger Republic, Cameroon that time, and countries around the world, they pick those information. Why do you think they have the embassy? They collect intelligence reports and say, hold on, don't bring anything to this country again. But the moment Buhari came on board, our house was put up for sale again, and they were buying it. So why must we do that to ourselves every year? What we are doing at the moment again, it will affect our stock. It will affect the way people will rate us and what kind of business they are willing to do with us. So must our country, must our economy, during time, we want to conduct an election? We don't have that kind of time again. And that's why we have to become very pragmatic as a people. When election is coming, it is a time the rest of the world must be willing to come to Nigeria, because people want to listen to good things Tinubu want to say, Atiku want to say, Obi want to say, to give them the assurance that if you want to go to Sambisa to put up a factory, you are safe. If you want to go to the east, if you want to come to the east, those are the period people should be coming to your country that I've read the manifesto of Ashwaju, I've read that of Atiku. Why must a former president of Nigeria be doing this to us every 4 years we are conducting an election? You brought someone to us. Nigerians voted for him. They made him president. You started writing a letter that his government was bad. He survived and came for the second time. You started writing a letter again. Another president came. You were writing a letter again. We had the election. You were writing a letter again. It's not fair on Nigerians and the youth and the young people of this country. It's not fair at all. And that's why I want to call on Nigerians that please disregard the letter. Don't let Buhari see that letter. And if by chance he sees it, please, Mr. President, it is a trap that you must not enter. You're over 70 years of age. You have time to give. I'm not saying that Buhari was going to die now, but I'm saying that you don't have another 30 years the way Babangida have, that people still didn't listen to him. To write books. When we visited Babangida, that was the first question I asked him. And he gave me a book that I should go and read. My wife did not allow me to read that book for 6 months. Why must you read Babangida's book after what he did to you? Why does one have time to read that book, to write that kind of book again, if anything happens to this democracy? He doesn't have time. He has a lot of explanation to do already when he leaves office. Why is this? Why is this that? He has enough. Don't come and add the recommendation of Obasanjo's letter to that one. The government you led for 7 years that is going to become 8 years by God's grace, May 29. Be responsible for it. That this is my 8 years. I want to be responsible. And all the decisions that I took. Everything I took, the good things I did, the things I did in government that I was misunderstood, the currency and other things, I have an explanation for it. Stick to that. Don't go and tinker with the idea of interim or somebody's coming, Obasanjo is writing one letter. No.
A lot of people feel that the letter written by former President Olusegun Obasanjo was a way of inciting the people in a certain way. Just even beyond the fact that he's a citizen, he's a stakeholder, an elder statesman trying to draw attention to some things that need to be done. But the tone of the letter, a lot of people deduce incitement in it.
I agree with them. I completely agree with them. See, when I see go on, and I know the reason, we thought he was a magician when he won that war. But his lifetime now explained to us how he was able to win that war. A true statement. The decision he took when those wars were on, then people don't understand, but now we understand. He withdrawn some generals from war fronts. We were winning war. But there were people who were having concern that why did we withdraw Muritala? Why did we do this? But he said we want to make sure this killing stops. We don't want to win war by killing people. We just want to win this war. People, but today I now understand who Gowon is. He won that war by being a true statesman. More blood would have been shed if he had been another leader. But the numbers of blood that were shed, that were limited to that, we should keep giving kudos to Gowon. I've read all the books about civil wars, and Gowon became outstanding in the roles he played. I can't say that of the president. Even as a Yoruba man, I can't say that about him. When he was the president, the education, the school dropout in Yoruba land increased by 37%. We have the record. During this time, the economy of Yoruba land entered into depression by 42%. We have record. Alata company closed up. So many closed up on that under Obasanjo. They say he brought GSM. Obasanjo didn't bring GSM. Gaddafi one was an AU leader, paid £400 million to establish our satellite in the space. So other African countries queue into it. That was when Abacha was leaving. Absalom was coming in. Obasanjo now inherited it. Kutona has been using GSM at that time. So he just inherited what he didn't work for. So it was made to look as if it's the GSM. GSM has become a universal thing. It doesn't have an option about that. And we have documented the killings OBJ did. I hope one day somebody, his government did. I hope one day somebody will recognize our petition. 192 members of acclaimed OPC member was killed in a single night in Lagos. We have the document. We've been written to the United Nations. We took it to Hague. We took it to every country in the world for them to question Obasanjo for his government for doing that. It's a genocide. Obi is there. Saki Biam is there. So we have a lot of questions to answer. So why is he doing this to us again? At a point when people, if you see 200 naira, someone gives you 200 naira, it's an euro. So at a time when mistakenly a major economic policy was combined with a political program and is having a very serious effect on Nigerians. Trying to manage ourselves, to scale through it, you are writing a letter. To do what? For us, it's not acceptable. Nobody, more than half of Nigeria doesn't take the letter serious, coming from Mr. President. Nobody takes it serious. But that's a capacity also for misleading our youth. We may not have the capacity to understand the depth of and secret interpretation of what letter actually meant. So as a result of this, I propose strongly that the government of the day should disregard it. And we should keep promoting statements like what the Albino president has said, that there's no single party that has a right to say that should cancel an election just because you are not happy with the result. It's not because you are not happy with whether the law has been broken, or it's because you are not happy with the result. That's our assumption, because the result has not even been completed.
Exactly.
But because
it's not even gone half.
But because political parties should have had their own results in our own situation room by now. Because from their own situation room, which I know PDP have their own, APC have,
Labour and
NPP, Labour and everybody have. By now, you should know where you have won and where you have lost. So my assumption is that they know they have lost. So as an observer, we keep addressing, and then to remain focused. And as a result of that, we also want to Nigeria that Nigeria should remain focused. Don't let us allow anybody to mislead us or to fight or to plot us against each other. In the last 3 weeks, the president of the country has been the one that has the most misunderstood and immediately. He's just surviving it now. The president has just been explaining himself. No, this is the intention. This is the intention. This is the intention. This is the intention. And people begin to understand with him. And we are bringing, this is not time for such. So we will not allow the letter to have adverse effect. We will not allow characters like that have been shown on our national TV to have effect on us and any other people. We will keep encouraging the likes of the president of the Albino organization to speak out more, to talk about peace, what we intend to get. Just like I said also, you are qualified to relocate to any part of the country, given your profile. We didn't do so. Likewise, me. We have absolute faith in Nigeria. We will not japa. We will not japa. We country will be great. Yeah. We are going to live in this country together. And Africa, Nigeria has been ordained to lead Africa. That prophecy will come to pass.
Well, we have led Africa before, and
we are still leading.
We're still leading. It's just that, well, maybe not in the ways outrightly that we would have wanted, but Nigeria still leads Africa in so many ways. The international community, when they want to discuss African issues or take decisions around Africa or about Africa, they consult Nigeria and maybe a few other countries to say, okay, how do we go about it? Because the peculiarity of Africa, Nigeria has a perfect understanding. Because Nigeria is a microcosm of Africa.
Of course.
You know, and because we wield the kind of influence that we wield on the continent, of course, if you're coming from the Western world and you want to have, even if it is Congo or whatever, or Nigeria or Ghana, as the case may be, Nigeria can help you make things seamless. You know. Now, let's talk about the issue of the election post-mortem. If you look at the elections we have conducted since 1999 up until now, like you made reference to some time where it was said to be a do or die affair, and so on, and INEC refined itself through all of the things they put in place. Now there's introduction of digital aspect of things, and here we are. However, as much as INEC presents its budget, it is never scrutinized. It is approved the way you bring it. Nigerians have a high expectation that if you carried out your assessment and you know that the number of polling units, whether it is inside of the river or it's on top of a mountain or it is in the desert or it's in the creek, whatever the thing is, you have mapped all of that thing out. You know how long or how much it will cost to transport yourself or your people from a place to so place, what is going to take, whatever the thing is. We assume that it was the summation of all of those that led to the budgets of INEC. So when the money is approved for you without scrutiny, one expects a very seamless conduct of the process. So when they begin to see hitches where there shouldn't be hitches, it calls for some level of concern. But how much of post-mortem is done at the end of an election where political parties come? What did you notice? Foreign observers come. Civil society organization, media, all of them come. Security agencies. Let us see what we did right, what we didn't do right, to right all the wrongs or the mistakes or the shortcomings that we had. Do we really have that kind of post-mortem on elections?
Yeah, of course. We must have. And one of the agencies that should not joke with post-mortem is INEC. So that they will be guarded with what you have from the coming election. It's very, very important. And many agencies in Nigeria assume that not doing things the right way is what Nigeria actually wants. Until they can start holding them responsible, I say, but you are the one that were doing this. I say, no, when we do it, what's our business with that? Your role is to do it the right way. So every agency start getting careful and start doing things the right way. And that's also with INEC too. INEC assume that political parties just want to do election in a Jankara way. But when they start getting bashed, okay, if that is the case, let's do things the right way. And that is what has been responsible for what INEC has been able to do. No matter what, we do the right thing. There are things, when you get close to certain institutions, I get close to police these days. Before, now, because of, as a civil society, I get apprehension when I see police. I've become a psychological thing, right from the days when we were in school. So, but I'm beginning to reorientate myself now. Maybe I've gone through therapy. I now understand the challenge Nigerian police have. There are things that we should not hold them responsible for again. The way they sleep in the office, the kind of welfare package they have. In fact, that you do see, I'm not justifying their action though, but definitely you cannot interpret something that is scientific with emotion. Why must police behave like that? It's emotional. The scientific thing is that if you don't train your staff very well. If you didn't get welfare pack, they are burden to you. The police will continue to become a burden to us in Nigeria if you don't do it. So you see, it's an emotional thing to say that, why are you talking like that? Do you want them to start killing people? Why must you know? Do the right thing for them. They will remain this way if you keep treating them the way we are treating them. The same thing with all our institutions too. Now, the problem with INEC is that when we get close, when I get the process, I understood that. When we start becoming observers, they tell us the challenges they have and their problems. Part of the problem is making law and also saying that, no, don't make that law, don't use it again. There's a place, for instance, in Bayelsa. Yenagua is the capital. Before you reach there, according to INEC, it takes you 6 hours by boat. So if he's the first person that we attended to for his materials, he will leave by 8 o'clock, add 6 hours to 8 o'clock. That's when the one election will start. So after postmortem, they will say, should we give people this voting material before? I said, no, why will you give them voting material? We don't want that. So you see that that's a problem for INEC. That's a crisis of perspective for them. Now the best way is to just give people 2 days earlier. 2 days earlier in Nigeria. No, don't do that. Political party will be different. Nigerians will shout. They'll say no. But they won't factor some of these peculiar issues. So there are things that INEC should be forgiven. And that's why I said, instead of condemning our institutions, we must join hands in assisting them to solve their problem. Maybe we should hasten in ensuring that we do online voting. We should hasten so that the material to do online voting will be there ahead of time. Because online voting, if you don't put anything, it's garbage in, garbage down. If you see the machine, it's empty, even if you take it there 2 months earlier, it's empty until you start voting.
Because so you need to be able to open the portal at the same time.
Yes, you're on time. So at the same time, so it's a simultaneous thing. Once you open the portal, it will open across the country, then we'll start voting. So when it's there, it's just a phone. When the phone doesn't have network, it's not, you can use it for calculator and play music or listen to radio. But you won't used to be able to use it to call. So when you hasten up to do an online voting, maybe it's going to solve that. But if we are still at the level that we have, question of logistics and distribution of logistics, we should be continue to be a problem. And we must not use that to condemn them again. It's not deliberate. It's not as if they just... It's only when we have cases like Lagos, where the voting collation, the headquarters is in Yaba, and you didn't get to do like after 6 hours. That's where we have problem with that. No, that's not acceptable. But there are areas in the country that's a challenge. That's number one. Number two is that, which is also part of the effort of INEC, that you must establish a proper political party. Political party is not a social club where people will go and do rehearsal of how to insult each other, where you go and do rehearsal of conducting research about each contestant. Go and conduct research and tell me all the terrible things about him. That's not what political party is meant for. It's a serious business. So part of the postmortem that INEC should be doing year in, year out is to prune down those social maladies that is identified with political parties. Social malady in terms of you go to parties and start spraying money to insult your opponent. Start on social media, post on social media, do a music on how to insult Baba blue, 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 blue. Some of those things shouldn't, and I should do something about it. Those are part of the postmortem. Then, which is very fundamental, what I'm about to say. How do you explain the kind of structure we have to Nigerians, to the youth, and the government, that the kind of structure we run in the country is expensive? And establish legitimate way of raising money. Because when you say president should spend 2 billion, party should spend 2 billion, it's funny. That's the reality. The president must touch 30 states. It's not under the law that you must start touch you. But if you want to win an election, in your own interest, you must touch. You must travel. And you travel with your entourage. That's the president only. President candidate only. You go to 36 states. We have 774 local governments in Nigeria. Another, there are still other. Then you have personnel there that are working for. So
and they have to mobilize.
You have to mobilize.
And that mobilization is your responsibility.
Yes, so it's the duty of INEC to throw this issue into a discussion where you have to debate. Make it a public discourse all over the country that you cannot continue to hold INEC responsible for it. We design this structure. What are we going to do about it? The party, the money you say parties should spend legitimately, 2 billion, is small. You can't get anything. So, except you say that they should save for unconventional means to spend those money. We want to win the election. And that's the reality. And that's our role to tell INEC. That's the area we have to look at critically. The alternative to it is for INEC, in conjunction with agencies, the information agencies, communication agencies, to subsidize adverts for political parties. We want to run adverts on social media. If it's political parties, after passing through censorship standard, is free. Money for adverts for political parties takes billions. So,
but it's the same thing anywhere in the world.
And the same of the rest of this is what they do now. They make it legitimate for organizations to contribute to money. They make legitimate money for people to contribute to money. They establish platform that they can also use. The base are not paid for. The rest of the but in Nigeria, after your debate, if you don't do certain things, the things you say in that debate will be misunderstood. Even if you are saying it live. So it's the duty of an as they grow, I think they have the capacity to do so. They can do that. They can explain that out to Nigerians that the communication network, then paying for security, provision of security, and things like that. They can conduct, they can engage. The police can train and engage security personnel who are industrial security like our own, the one people like us have and things like that, to make provision for certain things. So that you will reduce the money a president will spend grossly, very, very grossly. And that's why the issue of manifesto will have meaning to us. When people don't, we will have time to look at your manifesto. You've been thinking of, I need 500 million for the next 5 rallies. You will not be thinking about that. So the post-mortem, year in, year out, we've been sending these observations to an these are things you have to, this is how we can have our nation, this is how we can build our nation, these are the things that you must do. If you refuse to do that, that calls for the reason why people get desperate for or how to get to power.
Okay, let's talk about political parties. You know, there was a time, there was a debate about delisting some political parties, and a lot of people reacted, we have the right to our own ideology, we have the right to our own opinion, we have a right to create, you know, when political organizations were given right to apply to become political parties and so on. Now, a situation where a political party is registered and it is not able to have a certain coverage of the country or spread in the country, it is not able to win a councillorship election in any council ward in the federation, and you want to contest for election at the presidential level. Some people have started thinking that, see, let us go back to the drawing board. Political parties, when they are formed, you must start from the lowest level until you get to the highest level, where if you're being created now, you must show that you should be able to be on ground. The only elections you can contest for are local government elections, House of Assembly elections, state governorship election, and at that level. Until the moment you're able to win a state, then you can now apply to contest for presidential election or for Senate, as the case may be. So some people have started reasoning in that way as a way of creating a robust political parties that have bases, ideologies, instead of just creating organizations where some just exist in the portfolios of the 2, 3, 4, 5 persons that came together to form it. What do you say about that?
Well, is it reality will drag us to the right track? Of course, when you open a restaurant and you give the impression to people that you are only selling, you sell all sorts of food, only for people to go and swear that you are selling pure water and get on solve it. So people will feel disappointed and say that, why you better close this thing up. So there's no law that says that you should not open restaurants for that. But morally, it is not good. And that's why we should keep appealing to our moral conscience that all these distractions, we don't need it. So some of those political parties are put in place for negotiation. After election, during election time, they will approach the major election party that I have and negotiate, and they get paid. I don't want to mention any political party, but that's what they do. We all know this. Or they use it as a pseudo contestant. Go and distract the voters, just like the example of what we have today in a particular state, where someone grossly ensure that a particular. So that's and the morality of it is that it's not correct for our democracy. It's not good for us. We have to stop it. As political scientists, we have always been sounding a note of warning to the political class that your country must design the kind of politics that befits them, based on their on peculiarity. One of the options that is open to us is to either say that smaller parties can be formed on the basis of alliance. Why? Because there are parties that are formed to continue to win a particular constituency or a presidential district or a local government, just to protect some heritage there. Areas where we have Red Indians, they have only negotiated with either the Republican or Democrat. They have their own party that our heritage, our inheritance, we don't want anything to tamper with it. So they keep negotiating with political parties all the time. They keep so all over the world. So if there's a section in the INEC constitution that it's not a national party, it's just a party that is, this is our capacity. We have to design it that. Or we actually expunge that possibility. It's a country, because when you have right, and you keep saying that you have a right to do anything, women don't have. Can't we say, I have a right to have a esophagus. Women don't have esophagus. They can't have esophagus. When you say you have a right to become a man, a woman, a 30-year-old person don't have a right to become a 70-year-old person. It's not possible. A lion can't wake up one day and say that I eat I'm a carnivorous, Abi.
A carnivorous
I can't become herbivorous. So right must be defined to us when it comes to what you needed, not to go and pursue what you don't. That's not right. You have right, but you don't have a right to form a political party just because you have right. It's morally incorrect. And you are part of such parties are part of our problem in Nigeria. Nigeria must learn to come together to tell people who are pursuing certain that is not right. So such things are not right. And that's how you see our young people. Say, I have it. I say, that you don't know what is called right, though. Those are not right. So it is very, very, very important to take note of some of these things as a people. When you have already people talking to you, all our generation will take pen, we pen it and jot, and form it as a basis of how we're going to relate. So once some of this have been said in our country, we have to note it down. We don't have to throw it away. We have to use it as a basis for engaging each other. The coming election, any party that have this kind of description, that kind of profile, we should mobilize towards it because we know what it's meant for. We want serious-minded political parties. You want people to align. Regional alliance is possible. If it's not regional alliance, form a political party that has a national spread and come up with
seeming ideologies,
solutions for us. We have over 4% of the world resources. That's very, very huge. We don't have any business with poverty in Nigeria. But this kind of issues that we are not able to solve is the reason why we are not getting the kind of good life we deserve in Nigeria. So if you want a proper nation, you must have the courage to admit that we are doing a lot of things wrong. Part of this is what I have mentioned. You can have 4 or 5 serious political parties doing things, and you have 1 or serious political parties, and you think they will not be distracted. And you think people will not be using that platform to distract them. And we want to have our nation, we want to say our nation should be great. That's lack of courage. The courage to tell them that you do right, you say you have, it's not your right. So all these things that we are saying, we have to take it serious. We can't go out every day, analyze our problem, only for us to finish like going to mosque and church and still go back to our sin again. We can't be saying all this every day and refuse to make those corrections. And those corrections, courageously, is to admit that those parties should go. The moment we start talking, giving the people the impression that we have a right, lacking the courage to tell them that that right we are pursuing is going to put us in trouble. Because I agree with you. Why we must have a political party? I don't have a council only for us to go and contest for the. Those are things that kill our democracy. Eventually, when such people emerge to become the president, we have had examples of people like that. You go to Peru, Fujimori. In the 80s, that was what happened to Fujimori. Fujimori wept up sentiment and won the election. He was not a friend of the parliament. He was not a friend of the judiciary. He was a friend of nobody. Except the people he wiped on sentiment of. At the end of the day, he was disgraced out of office. So those political parties don't have touch with the people. And when we say grassroots, we are not talking about people who are local government or at board level. We are talking about people who have touch with the professionals, the artisans, the unions, the people at the rural areas, the women, the youth group, the students, the community. Then all the ideologies, the communists, the capitalists, the fascists. That's what is meant, the grassroots. If you don't have a touch with them, I understand their pain and come up with something. You won't be a good leader. If you just imagine on your own, and you don't know the temperature of all these structures I'm talking about, you keep making wrong policies.
Right. All right, we'll come back to this. I must thank you for all the insights that you're bringing, but we're still together here. Now, you're watching the Decision 2023 analysis on TVC, and we've been looking at all the issues that make up our democracy, the ones we understand, the ones we don't understand, the one that we need to learn about, the ones we need to unlearn. All of those are issues that make us a country and a nation as we build and become better in the way we operate our democracy. Let's go on a short break. Top of the hour, we'll be bringing you the news update, and then we go ahead with the last hour of analysis. Stay with us. TVC with Michael Kwache, and certainly I'm not alone. I have my guests with me. The last few hours we've been looking at issues, from the election and things that make up our democracy. Razak Olukoba has been with us here. Thank you, Razak, for staying with us and your insight into some of the things that we need to work on, looking back through the election, what we did right, what we didn't do right, the mistakes that were made, the gains that were made, and all of that. These are the things that make democracy, after all. Because even in the democracy that the whole world looks up to, it's not perfect in itself. It has its own challenge. So it's continuous work in progress. Now, I'd like us to talk about the issue of something in Nigeria's election that does not really come up at all. It doesn't come up for debates. In fact, if you look at many manifestos of candidates, they don't really talk about it when it comes. I'm referring to foreign policy. In the American election, foreign policy forms a very central part of what you want to do, why people should support you or not support you. But here in Nigeria, foreign policy is not a thing, because we're still trying to, live, survive. We're still trying to survive as a nation where government is still at this point sometimes borrow money to pay salaries and so on. So foreign policy is not a thing in campaigns. But I'd like us to look at it because we have seen in the last few years that from the reports that we got from some of the embassies of Nigeria in some countries, they couldn't even afford to repair their air conditioners. They couldn't get printing machines. They couldn't afford some basic things. And that's the embassy of a country like Nigeria. So when it comes to what the foreign policy of Nigeria should look like and why Nigeria should be respected, why Nigeria should wield the kind of influence that it should wield amongst the Committee of Nations, not just on the African continent. All of these things are the issues that one should be looked at. But what do you make of that aspect of things where we don't lay emphasis on the kind of foreign policy that we should have?
Well, it's a weakness on our side. And we are not relating with them from the position of equals. We are relating from the point of junior to senior. And it has reflected on the way we have been doing things together all this while. Let's start with the mutual relationship of I visit your country, you visit my country. You see many foreign countries, particularly from the West, placing visa ban on some of our leaders or passing sanctions on us. Whereas they have individuals in their country that have also committed similar crime. So it's not a good way to define ourselves to them. That's this who we are. Well, in the 80s, when our aeroplane was seized by the British government, we did the same thing to them. I'm not talking about on the point of view of a controversy at times. That's when we must be strong, but on all fronts, such that we must lead the agitation in OPEC that oil prices must be determined by members of OPEC. Why must someone from outside determine the price of our oil? Whereas oil is so important to the world that it's a monopoly. So it is easy for countries of OPEC to use oil to offset and create a balance the way they like all over the world. It's not the case. It's a weakness. It's been taken over from them. That's the other way around. That's one. Then two is that, you see, when you don't grow your countries on all fronts, you don't make them strong on all fronts, it is difficult for the rest of the world to listen to you when you say anything. If you place a visa ban on any, when we put on, I don't say any country that will come and beg Nigeria that you have to review your ban on us. I don't say any country. The reason is simple, which is that you must make your country valuable. You must make the rest of the world country look at your country as an asset. You must not make the country look at your country as a body. When in trade transactions, there are materials and products that have been phased out in their factories. When your country keeps coming to tell them that material that we need it again, that's not a good way to balance the economic relationship. Face me and face generator. It's been phased out over 20 years ago. But we keep going back to them that, no, this is what we want.
We can manage it. We can manage it.
When you go to China to reduce the quality of a particular product and bring it back to Nigeria so that I can make a much profit. So those are type of things that government finds very difficult to create a relationship with them. Well, we have to hold the government responsible because there are about 5 businesses in the world that we need to take part in if you want to relate as par with the rest of the world. The only one we seem to be taken serious is the oil and gas. The agro-allied is on today, off tomorrow. We are not concerned about it. The third one is telecoms. India is a leading telecoms in the world today. Close to it is, what do you call it? Shipping line, airline. There's a particular word for it, origin. So about 5 businesses like that. And that is why at the international market, economics will define it with their own economic term. But as an administrator, the way to have respect for your currency is when you have trade strength in terms of arming to agro-allied. I give food, I can produce rice, I can produce yam, cornflakes, biscuits, chocolates, manufacturing, and I can export it. So countries will have a basis to look for your naira to come and trade. So it makes your naira strong. When you have airline, when you have shipping line, we have so like Emirates airline. When you see your airlines all over the world, Nigerian Airways and things, is back on the track. In America, you can fly to London. You can. Nigeria will find it. The rest of the world will find a reason why they must look for your currency to change to dollar. So it keeps growing. The same thing in telecoms too. You have to look inward and be able to do that too. Maybe superpower, because lead that they used to do intercontinental ballistic missiles, tantalum, so many things in the north and scattered all over the country. If you begin to dip our hand into the soil and bring it out,
solid minerals.
So and that's under agro-allied. It's not essentially mining. That's agro-allied. So all these things are things that we must do. We don't have a basis to strike a relationship with Russia, trade agreement with Russia, that Russia needed so from us. It's going to determine our relationship with America. But when it's only oil you have, the oil you have is being phased out gradually. There are places that have gone to 50 countries in the world on solar already. So essentially, crude oil is for so many projects. If not for that, Nigerians will have been a bigger mess. But because crude oil is also not about the fuel for our cars, fuel for aeroplane, it's essentially for other products that are coming out of it, including gas. That's the reason why oil is still relevant and they are still buying it from more. Otherwise, so you can't off that one product like that. And you want to discuss foreign policy with who? What to come and do what? Is it to come to your country for tourism? To come and see what? Is it to come and use your airline for what? Which you don't have? Is it to agro-allied telecoms? So all these things are determined. And henceforth, you cannot survive as a nation. In fact, the more reason why the world has been tagged the global world is to be able to strike a relationship with everybody in the world. And if you don't do that, it's going to hamper our nation. First, we thought it was an advantage. But when you do it consciously, not to rely on the rest of the world for survival, it's a good thing for you. But when it is done, not because you took a decision, but because you don't have a capacity to trade with the rest of the world.
Yeah, but do you think Nigeria has the capacity to say, you know what, I think we have, like you mentioned, we have everything we can imagine or think about in this country.
There's nothing we consume that we don't have raw material
that we don't have. But do you think Nigeria has the capacity to say, we need to look inwards? If it is digital, whatever, we have, in fact, the activities that took place within Yaba alone attracted Zuckerberg and all the people, the Googles of this world here. And they call Yaba the Silicon Valley of Lagos or Silicon Valley of Nigeria. So when it comes to the digital life, well, of course, we have young people who are savvy enough. If we galvanize them enough and guide them, like we started in this discussion, guide them towards a certain objective, they can improve on that and become perfect. If it is medicine, if it is medical tourism, and we've had all of these things before. We have heard of princes in Saudi Arabia coming to Ibadan for treatment and for all of those things. We've heard of all those things before. So it means that we've perfected all these things before. But as it is right now, do we have the capacity to go back to that life again where we were proficient, we were strong in all those things?
Don't mistook what Kabaga and the rest of them came out to do. Don't mistook for the kind of thing that you want to. You see, a driver is a driver. Even if you are driving a plane or you are driving a motorcycle or plane, they will trade with you. Even if you not build yourself into an organized sector, they will trade with you. They will make markets with you. And they will give you the impression that, oh, of course, you are equal to the silicon just because you want to. It's a big, of course, Nigeria is a big market. And that's why I said that these setbacks must be turned into victory. You're producing oil. They are fixing your price for oil for you. So if that is the case, and the people who fix the right price for us is because they are the one consuming it. So if we are the one consuming it, you must build the strength around it that what condition are we going to be consuming your product. And that's the area of the weakness. So our foreign policy must start from the point of recognizing our own capacity and developing it to such an extent that we must participate in all trade, not as a consumer, so as a producer. If you say we must participate in agro-ally, not to be importing chocolate, that means taking away as cocoa from us. So if it is origin, not because you fly Emirates, that's the reason why Emirates is coming to discuss with you Nigeria. You now call it trade. You now call it foreign policy. That's not foreign policy. Foreign policy is when you fly my plane, I fly your plane. And if you want to come to Nigeria, what are the laws you are going to be? You want to trade with me in Naira? So it's on the basis of that. And like I said, this election coming this time, and it's like independence. People now realize that they must ask you questions. They must ask you what to do. The question of foreign policy has never occurred to millions of Nigerians. But you are bringing it up now. Because it's central. If I must travel, why must I buy $700 naira to a naira? That means I need 7 million naira to buy $10,000. As a Nigerian, line us up. In the world of Lagos, maybe it's only 1,000 that will have that kind of capacity. The other people that fly don't belong to third class that me. People who have saved money for like 4 years. Be able to do that. Like 4 years. So, and it is important that we address that. Because, like you have said, when you don't relate with the rest of the world, when the good things of the world are coming, your country will be left behind. When something that appears like a calamity occurs, they will not remember your country on time. You
won't even be on the table of negotiation.
Yes. They won't
you will only wait when decisions are taken,
so
then you're giving instructions.
So COVID-19, when it happened, top on the list of the countries in the world I will remember is Nigeria. It's not because of anything. It's because of we are making even this a lame effort to open our foreign policy. So we're doing our best. Brad is doing his best. Government is doing his best. But we have to look into the direction that we have pointed out. That trade strength is important. Now, other area is also the military. The military strength that we have has been weakened. Maybe it was deliberately that they opened it up, that flank for us, so as to weaken us. Before now, there are policemen in Nigeria that are taking a lot of medals all over the world. Our military men take medals, and they said the best country in the world in guerrilla war. That's a war on the ground.
Yes.
They said it's ascribed to be Nigeria. I've had that for 20 years, but I've not been hearing it again now in the recent time. So, in the area of military strength, we have to also develop it and also look at what our militaries are doing. We must not allow anybody to plot us against our military. I saw and I read a document where our military are also producing ballistics vehicles that no gun can pierce it and it's a bulletproof for a dog. Produced by our army. So that area will also take us, put us in the same table with Russia.
To add to it, is really a good point you made there. We now have Nigerian companies that are producing components for military jets. Done within this country. We've also seen MRAP and some of this military armored tanks done within the country. We've seen also the Nigerian Navy that has been building ship here at the dockyard within Nigeria, in Lagos here. So it tells us that the level of independence, of the fact that we can do this by ourselves.
So our guys that are coming, not looking at the economy, looking at the military might of Nigeria, we must not allow it to waste. We must not dampen the spirit of our military. If the military in Nigeria are not patriotic and loyal, there are flanks that have opened for Nigeria that if it is just, it's just for one country, that country is gone. Somalia is just insurgents. There's no secession there. There's no Yoruba nation there. There's no militant there that wants the derivation formula. Just one flank of insurgents of either Boko Haram or ISWAP or Al-Qaeda, as they call it in Somalia and Mali. And look at what it contrasts onto. The great country with the highest number of humanitarian crises in the world today is Somalia. That's just one. But in Nigeria, there are several flanks that is opened up for our military, and they are still standing. So we need to ensure that the rest of the world pay attention to that. Probably to come and take exchange programs and training. So that will also shape our foreign policy about us. Then we're watching Thabo Mbeki, Uhuru Kenyatta, and things like that. So
and NS by Kuruma area.
Yes, that political maturity must also be developed to such an extent that Nigeria must also lead a decision that Africa must begin to take in terms of how the rest of the world will relate with us politically. First and foremost, in the United Nations. Why is it that there's no African language that has been spoken there? Whereas in Europe, you have about 2 or 3 languages that is spoken as a lingua franca in the United Nations. So why is it that when Gaddafi commits a crime, Saddam commits, you quickly could take them to that country, Hague?
Yeah, the ICC.
ICC, you start trying them. And tomorrow, you have been calling your attention to European leaders, European presidents that have committed similar crime. You didn't take them to it. So these are things that Nigeria needs to pay attention to that must shape our country, that we have to start relating politically as equals. You can't take China for granted again. They were colonized by Britain, and we did the same thing for us too. China, you can't take it for granted again. Third world, but it's one of, after the 5,000 industries that are prosperous in the world today, China has over 3,000 out of the 5,000. But before, China has only 13 out of the first 5,000. But today, so you cannot see. You
even see how India is doing.
Yes, there's a state
we're in the league.
The state of Kerala in India. There's no single illiterate there. And in China today, there's a track rail that moves 1 billion passenger by a train. So you can't take them for. So we need our country to begin to look like that too, such that it's going to shape our foreign policy. Because when you don't have agenda, don't call for a meeting. So when you don't have all these issues sorted out, your foreign policy is just to go and have an handshake with any president and come back home, because there's nothing for you to discuss with Obama. I mean, with Biden, with the president of Britain, with the president of Russia. You just go and say you have tried to take the agreement with you again. Yeah. Then you come back again. You say, what is the trade I've struck with the president of India? It's futuristic. So there's nothing that will be futuristic about it. So these are lined up.
Futuristic issues without deliverables.
Yes, without deliverables. And on the culture of the African people, there is no country that can prosper with a borrow culture. You have to admit that. India recognized the fact that it is dangerous for India to promote a particular ethnic group among all the various and numerous ethnic groups in their country. So they recognized other ethnic groups and made it a permanent position that in our parliament, because of who we are going to be speaking 4 languages. That's a cultural issue. So when any foreign person is coming to Nigeria, if I decide to speak Yoruba to the president of America when he comes to our parliament,
it's my choice.
It's my choice. It's my choice. So these are foreign policies that they must accept and admit. Indian, Chinese leader, I know very well that I can speak very good English, but you will not speak English with the American president. So those are things that will shape our. So it's our decision to decide. Foreign policy don't just manufacture itself. It is your duty to
being intentional about it.
It's be intentional about it. So the guys that are going to become the president of Nigeria today has a lot to do. It's going to inherit a brand new country where all these issues will be picked one after the other.
You see a country like Rwanda, for instance, after going through the worst experience in the genocide that happened in their country many years ago, they decided to come out to say, you know what, never again will this thing happen.
Yeah.
So the concept of Hutu and Tutsi, let us neutralize it. There is no Hutu, there's no Tutsi. You are a Rwandan. So it became a policy where no one can ask anybody, are you Rwandan or you are Hutu? It doesn't exist. So the point there is, so long as you carry the card of a Rwandan, there's no indigenship, there's no residency, whatever. So you can neither speak any language that the other person understands.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that.
Yes. And for you, if you are coming from outside Rwanda, you must recognize that. So those are things that shape your foreign policy. And it's not just because they went to war. It's just they took a resolve because there are countries that have gone to more worse war than
worse
that.
Situations, yeah.
And they didn't take that decision. They didn't get to that point. It's just a resolve. When Japan took a shortcut to development too, that's what landed them to. While they're one of first-hand economy in the world today. And like I keep reminding ourselves that Japan has suffered two atomic crises. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki, then the Fukushima, the recent one. They are about to survive even the third one. They abated it again. When a country suffers a crisis where the land cannot grow anything for 50 years, you forgive them if they don't develop. You forgive them if they are hungry. But today, the country that has highest quality of living today is Japan.
Exactly.
In mountainous, so they are industrious, they are prosperous. So it's a resolve. So, and they took care of all the things that I've mentioned, so that if you want to relate with them again, you took whatever point for the road out, you took it serious because you know that Japan, despite the fact that since America intervened in the Second World War, they have a standing army there today. They still have standing army in Japan today. America has standing army in Germany till tomorrow. Despite that, too, they have a perfect foreign policy that even engages America on their own policy, that this policy, we can't accept it. So the ball is in our court. All this that we said, the ball is in our court. The guys that is coming on board is coming to work, no joke. It's not time for
serious work.
It's a serious work. And that's why when I see Nigerians distracting them by certain things, I look at people that you don't realize the implication of what you are doing, though. You don't know the meaning of what you are doing. When you do see people writing stories about Zelensky or Russia, when they are fighting war. And that the situation we find ourselves today is peculiar, that we must be doing and be saying things that will advance our country. On our youth, we have a lot of things to do about them. We have a lot of discussion we have to sit them down and have with them that do you want to integrate with the rest of the world? That's not the way the rest of the youth behave in the rest of the world, though. You are different, though. You are alien. This is not an attitude that befits a modern time. It's not. Don't say they do. They don't do that in America. They don't do that in London. They don't do this anywhere in the rest of the world. So you are just in isolation. And if you are not serious, the country is not going anywhere. So this kind of mentorship must come with the new leadership. That frank tongue, that courage to be able to tell them, not to pamper them. So these are the all of things that the coming leader must be able to address. And we must also be willing to offer our support. The first line of patriotism is your willingness to support your leader. So let's give whoever that emerge that opportunity to be able to do his work.
I wonder how we'll begin to teach that patriotism, because patriotism, you want to put it, you want to explain it. Of course, we know the ideals of what patriotism is, but when it comes to practicing it, sometimes it's a little more difficult. It's like we saying we love God very much, but when God says you should do this, it becomes challenging for us to practically do some things, So that's how I see patriotism sometimes, because in being patriotic, it is not when you are being supervised or you're being watched. It is something that is innate, where you know that it is because of the love for country that I can either sacrifice this or I can either decide not to do this so that another person can. You know, things like that.
Of course, there's a requirement that must be met by the government.
Okay.
Or by any leader, or by any country. Well, those are part of the requirement that I've told you. That if you have your foreign policy, I have to keep going back to, if you have your foreign policy that commands respect for you in the rest of the world, you come back and say, Mike, we are respected in the rest of the world. I was in Saudi Arabia, and at the time, I took a taxi for about 3-4 hours, and the man came around to say that this is who Nigerians were before. But today, what's wrong with you? You are not like this again. So I came back and said, see, and people educated him that in Saudi Arabia, when Saddam went there with a particular tree and planted there, you start saying, so those are requirements from the government. So when you are also going to, you also be going with respect yourself. There's an image for you in Saudi Arabia already. But when you go to Saudi Arabia, they give you a third line. Our own son of the soil, stay here. Other countries, stay here. Nigeria, come and stay here. So when you go to other country with this kind of, you will come back angry. And when the government tells you that, you say, which government? What do you mean? The image you create. So you get angry. So also within Nigeria too, when there are requirements, one of the requirements is that you lay you operate a program where it is visible for any citizens to prosper. That if you want to prosper, I give you a template. I give you an opportunity to be able to prosper. So that when things don't go wrong, you won't be able to hold government responsible. That my government has done its best for me as a capitalist.
Like we see these Scandinavian countries where everything seems to be working in that country. They may be small countries, but the systems there function to the level where their prisons look like palaces sometimes, where, in fact, if you compare them to what we have here, anybody who doesn't have a job will say, I think I need to do something so I can go to prison. We were like
that before, too. Right. Remember that on roadside, you have your product and you put, indicate how much you are going to sell those. We were like that before. Until something, that's something that we need to address.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work for whoever is declared president in the next, we'll wait for the next just few days, maybe even later today. The results could come up, and INEC, but we'll wait for INEC to let us know who the next president is going to be, and then Nigerians will begin to watch how the body language and what he's saying and what he's not saying in taking Nigeria to that destination.